California, here we go.
Yeah.
Do 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 do. California, here we
Here we
go.
come, right back where we started from. California.
I had to give Maggie her solo. Yes, we are back once again with another video on a wrestling channel that has nothing to do with wrestling. We
Oh,
are
come on,
back.
there's fighting. There's fighting. Come on. Like they light things on fire.
There was a whole season where a main character became an MMA fighter. So to be fair, yes, there is a lot of fighting on this show. But yes, we are back to talk about the OC. We talked about the character tier list. Joel or Jeremy can put an iCard so you can get that video and check out that. So now we are back to talk about the seasons. And of course, if I'm talking about the OC, I am with the beautiful woman who is on your screens every Friday on Coexisting with Rob and Maggie. It is the better half. Maggie is here.
Hi, sweetie. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be on screen with you again. It's been too
I'm
long.
really happy. It's really been too long, but like there's a lot of wrestling, and I went to London and everything, and you went to a lot of wrestling shows and everything. I'm glad that we finally get to do this because as we talked to each other before we started recording, this is a generational show. Like this is something that, if you're a millennial and you haven't, heard of the OC, you're probably lying. So we get to, if you're a lying sack of shit, then now we get to talk about, the OC and eventually get you excited about the show and probably, watch it. Because like if you think about it, their problems in the show are actually really common, but like there are a lot of money involved. But like it's
They're rich and entitled people. That's the only
yes,
problem.
rich and entitled people, and there's Sandy Cohen right in the middle to make you sure that you do the right thing. You know the thing that we talked about last time on the show. What would Sandy Cohen do? Like you
Yes.
should always ask yourself before making a mistake.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the best characters on this show. If you want to see where we ranked all the characters, go click the iCard or click the screen. It's probably on the side of your screen right now. You can check
We
out our
can put it
characters.
in the description also.
Yes, in the description as well. But I usually am Jerome YouTube because we do a character or season tier list. We just did a season tier list for One Tree Hill with me in Shared Delaware. But unfortunately, there was only 4 seasons of the OC. So the Jerome YouTubes and Gary YouTubes of the world have not created a tier list for us to do a tier list, which would have only been 4 tiers, to be fair, because there's only 4 seasons. But still, we can talk about the seasons. So that's what we're going to do here. And we're going to rank the seasons, breaking it down in chronological order. But overall thoughts or reiterating of thoughts on the OC show and the seasons and how you feel about the seasons overall. You were kind of telling me before we started recording.
Yes, I was. SP3 mentioned that he couldn't find a tier list, and I'm like, well, actually, in my perspective, you don't need one because like it kind of goes as it does. Because like for me, season 1 and season 2 are the best thing on television when it comes to OC. Season 1 is uh throughout every episode of season 1 you learn something different for every main character on the show. And in season 2 you can see, furthering of the storylines that we had in season 2. And then in season 3 and season 4 they're just like kind of stretching things out because they want the money and everything, and they're wondering.
They want the
the-
money.
yeah, you do the money, the money. So here you go, some wrestling references. Um, so you can kind of tell that, every, the fifth season of, as people call the, the fifth season of your of your life, or the fifth season in every series or whatever. It's always the one that you should end it there, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of people thought that about season three, uh and I can kind of get it, because it was almost as if the entire, purpose of the show was sucked out of its own existence in season three, because it was extremely dark season because of Volchak.
Well, we'll get into everything because
Yeah,
I will make the argument that the darkness started at the end of season two, which
it did.
we'll get
It did. It
into, and
absolutely did. It
it
absolutely
just
did.
changed everything. But that's why I disagree with the order of the seasons being the order of like the quality. I think season four brought back more of like the more comedy side and the
It
more
did. It did.
lighter side of the OC that we grew and love in season one. But without further ado, let's get into it. Of course, if you're watching this, let us know in the comments down below how you rank all four seasons of the OC. Do you agree with Maggie? Is it in order as it went, or do you have a different order? Do you enjoy season two over season one? Let us know in the comments down below. But let's start off.
Also, please don't hesitate to write that Marissa is a fucking bitch, because she is. We
Always
all agree.
remember.
Always remember, it was always her fault. Everything you can trace everything that happened in the show back to her. Everything. Like, she tried to be a good person by doing, good deeds. It could never compensate.
Nope.
It could never compensate. Okay, carry on.
Well, let's talk about the first season of the OC. Of course, this is how everybody is introduced. You know, the pilot where we're introduced to bad boy Ryan Atwood. And I say that because that is literally what it says in the description for this episode.
Yeah, yeah. And he was like, "Who are you supposed to be? Wherever you want me to be.
Whatever you want me to be.
Wherever you want me to be." With the cigarette.
Whatever you want me to be. Bad. It says the description here, Maggie. Bad boy Ryan Atwood finds himself in trouble with the law and in
Shocking.
trouble at home against all odds. Pro bono public defender Sandy Cohen takes Ryan under his wing and back to his home in Newport Beach, Orange County, California. Ryan finds himself immersed in this high class society, but soon realizes nothing is as it seems. I love how they make it sound.
It's so dramatic.
I love it. I love it so much. But yes, the pilot, we see Ryan and his brother getting arrested after stealing a car. We see him meeting Sandy Cohen and kind of telling him about his kind of upbringing and his brother being arrested. Well, he knows about that. And then he gets in trouble with his mom when she picks him up and brings him back home. We see that he has kind of an abusive relationship with the mom's boyfriend, and he gets kicked out from home. He calls a couple of his friends and nobody picks up or nobody will let him stay. So he calls Sandy, and Sandy brings him back to his home in Newport Beach. Kristen, his wife, is against this. Sandy's wife is against this.
Of course.
Seth kind of embraces Ryan almost immediately. They start playing games together. They go out sailing. He talks about his little crush on Summer Roberts. They go to this high class party where Ryan becomes a big hit because they tell everybody he's the cousin or nephew from Boston. We see that whole meeting. Whoever you want me to be, between him and Marissa the night he comes over to Sandy's house. Then they meet at the party. He meets Summer. Summer gets a crush on him, invites him back to like a after party
She's a
where
totally different person in the pilot. Summer,
yeah,
absolutely, totally different person. In episode 2, she was absolutely different. Like,
yeah,
nothing. Yeah, like if you decide to watch, the show, Summer is a totally different person from episode 2 till the end.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah,
They totally changed the direction of her character
absolutely. I'm
for
so
sure.
glad, by the way. Just-
We see Marissa. She has a boyfriend named Luke. They get in. Luke and starts picking on Seth, and Ryan comes to defend them. They get into a whole big fight with the lacrosse team. They get beat up, but they had each other's back, so they bond over that. They brought back, but Kristen gets upset because Seth got into a fight because of Ryan, so she wants him to go. So Sandy drives Ryan back to his house where his mom is nowhere to be found. And that's basically
she hit the
how the
brick,
pilot
see?
ends. Well, so that's how the pilot ends. You go into the next couple of episodes. You got the model home, which is a very popular episode where Seth comes up with the brilliant idea to hide Ryan out in a model home when Sandy and Kristen basically decide they're going to send him to like a orphanage because his mom has ran off. So he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to be in a group home or anything like that. So Seth comes up with the idea. They get help from Marissa, who drives them to the model home and hangs out with them, gets Ryan a few stubs, gets him a mixtape.
Mix
That's
CD.
in the mix CD. Their love is blossoming and blooming as they talk about everything. We learn about the background between Marissa and Seth, that they've been next door neighbors for a while, but Seth is basically weird and awkward and doesn't talk to anyone, while Marissa is very nice and friendly, but Seth is kind of introverted, so she doesn't even talk to him and stuff like that. But they have a lot of the
We find out that she actually listens to punk music,
yep, yep.
and
They have a
she's
lot of the same
yeah,
interests.
absolutely. And Seth was impressed as hell. So like that's
or disgusted because he's like, I like the same music as Marissa
as
Cooper.
Marissa Cooper. Okay,
So
he was impressed in his own way. That's how I'm gonna. Yeah.
in his own way, yes, indeed. So Luke finds out about all of this, and he follows Marissa to the model home where she wants to basically say she wants to spend the final night that Ryan's gonna stay before he runs out on his own with him. But Ryan pushes her away because she has a boyfriend and he knows it's wrong. But Luke sees all of this. So a big fight breaks out in the model home where Ryan has candles all lit. I don't know why he had that many candles. And the candles get pushed over and the model home gets burned. Luke beats up Ryan and he's knocked out, but Luke actually pulls him out. So I love the fact that even in episode 2, the main villain, they humanize him by giving him a moment of heroic moment where he saves Ryan from the burning house. And then the
I
episode,
enjoy it too. I enjoy it too because like um you're probably like 16 or 17 years old. You probably don't want to say that a 16-year-old can be fine with killing someone.
yes,
Like you probably want to say that because like you had people like that later on in the show, but like they were older, like Brian's brother. Like you would like people to believe that psychopaths like that are formed later in life.
formed later in life. That's a direct quote, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Psychopaths like that are formed later in life. Um, so the episode ends with Ryan and Luke as Ryan talks Luke into basically admitting that he had something to do with it. He drives him back to the Cohen house where the cops are questioning him because the model home was, of course, a part of Kristen because she's a part of the Newport group
Newport Group.
home, and does like residential homes. And also in this episode we find out that Marissa's dad is basically lost all his money and he's embezzling money because he's like a stockbroker,
A
financial,
financial planner.
yeah,
Financial planner.
financial planner, which he did not have a good plan apparently. But
Obviously,
yes,
he wasn't ready. He was not the man with the plan.
is not the man with the plan, Brian Kendrick. But yes, Jimmy Cooper is losing all the money and lost all the people money. So that's where we end episode 2. We go into episode 3, which is the gamble. After Ryan's arrest for the fire, Sandy works his legal magic once again. The two search for Ryan's mother, who surfaces apparently sober and ready to accept her son back into her life. In an attempt to improve everyone's chances for a better future, Kristen invites Dawn Outwood to a charity casino night. However, Dawn's alcoholic demons resurface and she makes a drunken scene in front of the entire party. I love how the description literally tells you the entire plot of this episode is it's a casino night. So that's where the gamble name comes into play. Ryan is in basically like the juvenile delinquent, and he's about to stay there, but Kristen feels guilty when he gets like beat up, when he's getting beat up and harassed, and when a guy tries to like hit on her and Ryan comes to her defense and he gets beat up. So she takes him out of the group home and makes Sandy find the mother. So they find the mother and bring her back. They invite her to this casino night. She talks to Ryan, convincing him things are going to be different. So this casino night is kind of the test of that. But there's free drinks, and she gets starts to drinking, starts to get a little handsy, starts to get a little sloppy, causes a whole scene. We get another moment of, okay, Luke is actually human, where he's trying to basically get back with Marissa after he's been a complete jerk and get into the whole fight with Ryan and been very jealous. And he actually helps Dawn get up at the casino night, and Ryan has to step in when Ryan's like completely embarrassed and doesn't even help his mom because he's like in shock at the embarrassment.
Mom, you're making me look bad in front of my new friends.
In front of my rich friends.
In front of my rich friends, you whore.
We get a moment of Seth and Summer in this episode where Seth is Summer's good luck charm at casino night as well. Yeah. And we get
blows her dice.
Blows her dice. Hey. And this episode ends with Dawn basically accepting that she has a problem and she's not right for Ryan, and the best thing for Ryan is to be left here, and basically says that Kristen is the mom that he deserves and that he needs right now. And Kristen accepts Ryan into the home and tells the family that Ryan's going to be staying with them from now on. It's a nice little moment. One of the rare nice endings to an OC episode.
Yeah, I know. Like no cliffhangers and everything. So, nothing that will make you, slit your throat and everything just ended. So like
exactly.
Yeah.
Like the next episode, which is the debut, which is the whole Sandy and Kristen legally adopt Ryan. The newest member of the Cohen clan ends up escorting Marissa to the Cotillion. Where Seth meets up with Anna Stern. This is where we meet Anna, a new Anna, a new student from Pittsburgh. At the festivities, Jimmy's clients discover that he has been stealing their money, and a fist fight breaks out. These descriptions are totally giving away the entire episode. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. But
that's how we end this
so
episode.
Incredibly fancy. They were so fancy. Like the women were dressed in white and the guys had their, tuxedos on and everything. We get this was the moment where we got introduced to Ryan's friend from his childhood. What was her name? Teresa. Yeah.
No, it wasn't this episode. This episode? No. It's late. It's later in season. It's the Thanksgiving episode.
Oh, it's the Thanksgiving. Thank you.
We meet Teresa. This is where we meet Anna. Yeah, we have a lot of time. This season is very, very long.
A lot of things happen in this season.
I'm gonna start combining episodes after a while.
Thank you.
This whole season is 27 episodes long. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we got to meet Anna. I was so, because when you first watch for the first time the OC, you're gonna start rooting for Anna because she's absolutely, and I adore Anna. She's so great, and you're like, Seth should be with her probably.
Yes.
No, yes. Just forget about Summer. It's not gonna happen. Dreams don't come true, Seth. Like, might as well, realize this at a young age. So, like, just go for Anna because she's smart, she's incredible, she loves everything that he does, and then you realize that you probably don't want a second version of yourself dating yourself. Like,
Exactly.
probably, like, it's okay having similar interests, but it's not. And this is exactly what Steph himself realizes later on the show. But I adore Anna so much, so much. She's so great.
Yeah. So Luke and Marissa have a falling out in this episode. So that's how Ryan winds up taking her to Quintillion. After I think this is the episode where Ryan and Luke get into another fight. So it's
Shocking.
so many different fights that I can't mark this one as as what. Yeah, so Luke walks out. He comes back at the end of Continuing, but Marissa doesn't want anything to do with him, which and then also we got to mention that Jimmy's clients find out that he's a goddamn thief. Kristen in this episode
They start fighting.
basically talks Sandy into helping him because Sandy is a lawyer, so of course he can try to help him out. So it starts the budding bromance of Jimmy Cooper and Sandy Cohen in this episode.
Having in mind that Kiki and Jimmy are former lovers from when they were kids and everything, so they
Yes.
have history with each other. And Sandy asked his wife, "Are you like, how much do you know the current Jimmy Cooper? Like, as opposed to the past version of himself that you knew and you were in love with and everything."
And
so
Jimmy is married to Julie Cooper, who is it seems like the gold digging housewife trope, which would evolve throughout the 4 seasons, though.
absolutely, man, what are ups and downs with Julie Cooper Nickel.
Julie Cooper Nickel Roberts. Next episode was The Outsider. This is when Ryan starts working at the Crab Shack. He asks Marissa out on a date. He meets his co-worker named Donnie. Donnie invites Ryan and Seth
Troublemaker.
to a party in an old neighborhood. Ryan is reluctant to reconnect to his past, while Seth is anxious to find out more about this alternative anti-Newport lifestyle. But this leads to to Donnie bringing a gun to a party that Seth invites him to at Holly's house, and he winds up shooting Luke. So that's how the episode ends, basically. And that brings and the shooting of Luke brings Luke all nice, so he brings him closer to Ryan and Seth, and it also brings him closer back with Marissa. So unfortunate for Ryan, because Ryan asked Marissa out in this episode.
He does.
Sad. The sad breaks. Yeah. We got next The Girlfriend, which is Kristen's father, Caleb, arrives to celebrate his birthday party. He brings his new, young, attractive girlfriend, Gabriella. After Caleb criticizes Kristen's judgment, party, and family business, Sandy tries to encourage his wife to leave the real estate business run by her father. Next door, Julie tells Jimmy that she is filing for divorce, and at the party, Caleb turns his pleas for a job down. So
the bastard.
Basically, this episode, Caleb, this is when we're introduced to Caleb Nickel, who is the real big bad of this whole first season, because like we said, we humanized Luke enough where he was the villain in the first episode, but they've humanized him enough where he got shot the last episode, so he's no longer a villain. So we need a new villain to step up. So we turn up the volume on Julie Cooper, where she files for divorce with Jimmy, and we introduce Caleb, who's a domineering father to Kristen, who seems so nice and kind of subservient to him, and is a good adversary for Sandy. Kind of treats Seth like he's still 10 years old, and seems like he hates Ryan already before he even meets him. And Ryan gives him a reason to hate him because he winds up kissing his girlfriend. So
yeah, and not only that, but like he understands that he was the one to light his house on fire.
Also,
yes.
There's points. There's points that were made. It seemed like Marissa was about to choose Ryan over Luke, but
But
as I
she
said,
walks in.
Ryan was
That
making out
scene.
with Caleb's girlfriend, and Marissa just turns around, goes to Luke, and decides to lose her virginity.
That
That
okay. I
escalated
have,
quickly.
yeah, it really did. I have so many questions. Like, first of all, Ryan, like when he moved in with the Coens, he started sleeping in the pool house. First of all, that pool house is bigger than my entire apartment. First of all, second of all, those people have no idea what locks are.
No,
Like they know. Like
no.
why? How come? Like it's, if I were not living alone in my apartment, I will lock absolutely every door that I am in. So I would assume that they have locks in their bathroom doors. Like locks are not only invented for bathroom doors where require some privacy. Why? Like you're about to make out, hardcore making out with a hot piece of ass. Like why not lock that door? Like there's
You know?
like movies and TV series. You have to agree with this. Movies and TV series made a point out of, because like she was the initiator here, made
Yeah.
a point out of someone, that incredibly hot scene everywhere with you're just shutting the door and like locking it and just turning face to the person that you're about to sleep with. That's an incredibly hot thing to do, and they decided not to do this here, and this pisses me off. And it's like, it's common sense, it's like doors can be locked, people. Like you're
It
you're
can
just
be.
so,
There are
yeah,
ways.
you're so rich and entitled that you decide that locks were not invented for you and you don't need locks.
Not for
I
me.
immediately hate you. Like that. I'm
Damn
bigger
you,
than
Lux!
locks. I'm bigger than using locks. So my daddy will pay for all the damages that are done to your emotional state every time you enter a room that you were not supposed to. So that's basically what happens here. So daddy is Caleb. So
Yes, basically. Basically.
basically.
um so yeah, this also was the episode that Seth and Summer kissed for the first time, as
Yeah.
Summer had spent the episode basically trying to convince Seth to invite her to his granddad's party so she can impress rich older
The rich
guys.
people.
The rich people, rich older guys. And Seth basically impresses her because he remembers the poem she read when she was 7 years old. So yeah, then that causes
I
her to
wish I
kiss him.
was a mermaid across the sea.
So cute. So cute. So
I'm
cute.
gonna tattoo this on my butt. I promise. One day I'm gonna tattoo the entire poem
Now
on
you
my
gotta
butt.
twerk it. You gotta twerk it, you know.
Yeah, because I also wish I was a mermaid just so I can get out of here. So,
You can bust out of here.
yeah.
Now, the final episode that we will break down here is the Escape, episode 7, which the description reads, the gang escape to Tijuana on the final summer weekend. Once in Mexico, the foursome find the bar where the rest of the class are partying hard. Among the drunken, sweaty bodies, Marissa walks into Luke kissing a girl in their grade and leaves in a rage, feeling
Is this
abandoned.
wasn't this the exact same Haleywood that was her party where Luke was shot? Is that the same girl? Because I kind of remember
Yeah,
it
yeah, that was her
changing.
house. The same
Yeah,
one whose house we were at
yeah,
for the first episode too.
yeah. That's a whore. Like she's a whore. Haley's a whore.
She had been hitting on him since the first episode, so there
Yeah,
was a lot of
she
build up
was.
to this as well. We
Exactly.
feeling abandoned. Marissa mixes a handful of painkillers with tequila shots, and Seth, Ryan, and Summer then find her later passed out in an alley. So the reason why I broke down these first 7 episodes is because people who didn't live through the OC don't know this, but there was a huge break, like a 5-week break between the first 7 episodes and the rest of the season, because this was basically like a summer preview of the new series. And
Yeah,
I thought that this was a brilliant marketing plan because I remember in the 5 weeks separating it, everybody would be talking about this new show.
exactly.
So when it came
Exactly.
back, and they saw a huge boost in the ratings for episode 8. So that's why I wanted to separate these first 7 episodes. Then I'll probably break down overall season 1 here. But episode 7, The Escape, their trip to Tijuana. We see Ryan and Marissa are on bad terms because of Marissa walking in on him and Marissa being back with Luke and losing her virginity to Luke. We see Seth and Summer are also on bad terms because Summer's just using Seth for a ride. Seth is lying to his parents saying they're going on a comic book convention, but they're really going to TJ, and they give a ride to Marissa and Summer. They stay in a hotel for a while. They're in the hotel. Marissa finds out that Jimmy and Julie are getting divorced, so she breaks down, has a little moment. They arrive in Tijuana where we have the aforementioned Luke kissing Holly and Marissa breaking up with him. A whole big fight breaks out with Ryan punching Luke. What happened?
I like what because like when you're watching the show and like we basically were the exact same age when
Yeah.
we watched the show as they were supposed to be,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, so that's obviously people in their 30s.
Oh, well, it's obvious people in there. I said 20s back in those days. I was like, they're in their 20s. They're in their 20s.
Yeah, okay, that's perfectly fine, but like that exact moment you understand that those are people in their supposed teenage years, because when she breaks up with Luke, she was like, I slept with you. And I'm like, yeah, so
That doesn't mean he's not gonna cheat.
that is no way. Like, it was so dramatic because when you're that age and you're like, yeah, girlfriend, you slept with him, you get like you break out with that, with that loser, with that awful human being of a Luke that he is. Like, no, he's a cheater. And then you like become older and older and you're like, yeah, so
Big deal. This leads to her getting some painkillers from Summer that belongs to her stepmom. She
yeah,
ODs.
with tequila, everything. That's always an excellent idea. Painkillers with tequila. That's always great.
And we get our first call back to the first episode where Ryan basically picks up a drunken Marissa in front of her house and brings her to the pool house. And he walks out the alley with a OD Marissa passing. Like they always have these songs where are very memorable montages.
Absolutely.
They have the most. This is probably the teen drama that has the most memorable montages in history.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
We will. We will. No, my favorite is Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. But all right, so to break down season 1 from here, I'll break it down by A plot being Ryan and Marissa drama, B plot being Summer and Seth and Anna, which is the B plot of this season, their love triangle. C block being the parents of C plot being the parents of Sandy and Kristen and Caleb.
A lot of things happening there. A lot of things. Then
so much that I have to separate a D plot for the Coopers. The Coopers is
the Coopers, because like
D block.
Her sister comes into the show and then she's falling in love with Jimmy.
She was in the first 3 episodes or 4 episodes, and then she kind of just gradually disappears after the divorce.
I know, you're a stripper, auntie. Yeah.
None of that. None of that. So our A plot, Ryan and Marissa. So basically when we come back from the whole break and we go into the next plot of episodes, it's all about basically Marissa and Ryan finally getting together and starting their whole relationship. But you know, Luke
Snoopy.
is an outlier there. Luke and Ryan are put together on a project where they start bonding over muscle cards, but then they see Luke's dad making out with another coworker, a male coworker,
A male
while he is
coworker.
married, and it breaks out into a whole big scandal that he's gay, and Luke basically believes that Ryan is the one that tells people at the school, but he's not, and they basically team up together for the first time and beat up some bully softball players from another school, and finally, kind of Luke starts to accept his dad by the end of that episode. So Luke becomes a part of our friend group. And honestly, I gotta redo our character tier list because watching it back and thinking back on it, Luke is one of the better characters. I mean, they started him out, but they gave him a whole redemption arc within like 10 episodes, 10 or 12,
Yeah,
11
sure.
episodes.
And then they gave him Julie.
I mean, we'll get to that. That's a part of the Cooper plot here. Going back to this whole A plot, a lot of things is good with Ryan and Marissa. They have their moments. They have a moment where they tell each other "I love you," but you also have Marissa dealing with her family's divorce, and she starts drinking. Ryan wants her to address that. We got the whole Christmaka episode where she has a whole drunken binge scene and stuff like that. We also have an episode in Thanksgiving where she runs off and goes to basically with Ryan to Chino, and they meet Ryan's ex Teresa. And the reason they're there is because his brother wants to see him for the holiday and wants him to basically pick up a car from Teresa's brother. And they steal the car, and Marissa's there to save Ryan when he's about to get his ass kicked. There's a lot of saving between them. They
Yeah.
depend on each other to save each other. But things really get messed up when Oliver comes into play because Ryan gets Marissa to get therapy for her drinking problem and for her abandonment issues, and she
Also her
meets Oliver
mother. Her mother
and her
also.
mother. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Mostly her mother, because her mother
Yes.
wants to keep Ryan away from her.
Yeah, she
After
really
she
hated
ODs.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like things never happened like this before that kid showed up. And I'm like,
Yes.
yeah,
And
okay.
we would come to find out it's really only because Julie comes from the same background as Ryan. That's why she was like
Absolutely.
defensive
Absolutely.
against Ryan. But yes, you have
With the
that whole
porn tapes and everything.
Jesus Christ. Don't remind me of all that. But yes, you have that whole scenario. But she meets Oliver, they become friends, but Ryan can tell right from the back that something's up with Oliver. He has like breakdowns,
what
he has like different moments where he like lies and blatantly lies about having a girlfriend, and like he's trying to
what was her
impress the
name?
team. Huh?
Her
Um
the
Damn it.
girlfriend's name. What was it? Like it's was
I
it
gotta I gotta look it up here.
I
Yeah,
really
because
don't remember.
I'm
Yeah,
blanking on it.
if you're if you kind of kind of think about it, um like Marissa was the only one to like Oliver. Everyone else just was on, for the ride because like he invited them to, the villa and everything and New Year's or whatever. Everyone just like was on, on it for the ride. Like no one else liked Oliver like Marissa did.
Yeah,
And like, of course, Luke was the one to say, "Yeah, Ryan, you're right. That kid ain't good news." So
something
that's
up with
when,
him.
yeah, there's something up with him, and that's when we get behind Luke even more, like you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Luke definitely was the only one that was
Only
listening
one,
to
only one.
Ryan and realized that something was up with him. Seth was cool with him. Of course, Marissa was trying to talk to him and thought that Ryan was just being jealous. We got the whole New Year's episode where Ryan comes in the nick of time before Oliver was try to make out with Marissa. Then you get the whole episode where Oliver then starts going to Harbor High School where Ryan and Marissa and the gang go, and he basically has a moment
Such a
where
snake.
where Ryan's like, Ryan's gonna try to give him a chance and says sorry for, thinking that he had ulterior motives, and then he admits, like, yeah, I do have ulterior motives. I'm gonna take everything from you. I'm gonna take Marissa, I'm gonna take your friends, I'm taking this school. Like, and Ryan snaps on him, beats his ass, gets his ass suspended. Marissa is trying to be there for Oliver because apparently he breaks up with his girlfriend and he just got beat up, and stays at his loft or his hotel. And then we find out that his girlfriend is just the name of his receptionist downstairs at the hotel. And yeah. And Luke is basically told to bring some stuff for Marissa, and he's the one that kind of tells Ryan, like, something's up here. And then finally, Marissa calls Ryan and is like, "Yeah, I think he's crazy. I think he has a gun. He has a gun.
He has a gun." And she's like, "No shit, bitch."
And Ryan comes and saves the day for her, but Ryan does not forgive her because she did not believe him. He told her multiple times.
I wouldn't, be okay with Marissa after that too,
Me either.
Ryan. Because like after this episode, if you still like Marissa, you're a rich spoiled whore yourself. Because like Jesus, you didn't you choose to believe someone totally else and different from the person that you are with.
Yep.
That's a really shitty thing to do. And you
It is.
wonder why women have a bad reputation when it comes to relationships. That's why, Marissa, God, I hate
Cooper,
her.
it's all your fault. But yes, you got that whole thing was settled. Then it went directly into another love triangle with these two, with Teresa, as she starts having a job in Newport. She's having issues with her
Catering?
boyfriend. Yeah, catering. She's having issues with her boyfriend, so her and Ryan reconnect. They start dating again, and
They slept with each other.
they wind up sleeping with each other because Teresa has run off from Chino and her boyfriend and her life, and is staying at a hotel, and her and Ryan sleep together. But she
That
eventually
hotel, by the way, it was a drive-through motel or whatever.
it
The
was a lot
Mermaid
of stuff.
Inn. The Mermaid Inn.
A lot of stuff going on at the
A lot
Mermaid
of
Inn.
stuff.
Let me just tell you. Let me just tell you. So yeah, you had that whole thing, and yeah, but Teresa goes back to her boyfriend Eddie. I think, yeah, that was his name.
Eddie, yeah.
And meanwhile, Marissa has been just basically trying to prove to Ryan that she could be his friend, and really wants to get back with him. They eventually do get back together, but eventually this is after when we get to our D plot with the Coopers of why they eventually do get back together. We'll get into that. But they get back together, and then Teresa admits that she is pregnant. So Ryan is stuck with the dilemma of Teresa is pregnant and leaving Newport to go back to Chino and restart her life with being pregnant with Ryan's child, or could be Ryan's child, could be Eddie's child. We don't know. They didn't even think of getting a paternity test. Ryan just chooses, now I gotta leave my new life in Newport and I gotta go back to Chino. And our A plot ends with Ryan leaving and Marissa looking at his car driving away. Hallelujah.
Just like they did in the pilot.
Hallelujah. To go to our B plot. The B plot is Seth, Summer, and Anna. So Seth is basically put into the middle as Summer slowly discovers she has feelings for Seth, but meanwhile him and Anna connect because they have so much in common. So it becomes basically like a competition between the two. We get the
It
whole
really does. We get Summer in the Wonder Woman costume.
which
Every nerd's nightmare, because like you guys fell in love with her even more.
even
She was so
more.
great. She was so great. I adored her in the Wonder Woman costume. And she was like, at this time when she was dressed up as a Wonder Woman, she realized how much in love she is with Seth, and that's why she was like, "Oh no, I'm in love with Seth Cohen." Like, no, like you gotta choose. You have to choose one or the other. And they never hated each other. Like
No,
they like each other. They respected each other
they had
like
their
a lot.
episodes where they bonded over Golden Girl.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Golden Girl.
So Seth
This
eventually chooses Anna because Anna comes to him on New Year's, but
yeah.
eventually they realize that they are a little bit too much in common as Summer tries to become friends with them, and Seth
Yeah,
is trying to like show her new comics and is so interested in showing her his interests and learning about her that it makes Anna insecure, so they decide to break up and he eventually gets with Summer. They sleep together. It's very awkward, but they
it
finally
is.
come to the realization that they were both virgins. So that's why it was so goddamn awful. And they have good sex together and they eventually start a relationship together. Anna goes back to Pittsburgh. Seth is sad for a bit. Seth and Summer are on good terms till like the end of the season. But when Ryan leaves, Seth realizes that it might go back to how it used to be before Ryan, and he decides to sail his boat off and run off. He's going to go to Tahiti, but apparently he just winds up in Portland. And
No.
Summer and Seth are basically broken up at the end of season
Because he
one.
just left. He just
He
left.
just left with the letter. He
The
just
bastard.
left the letter. That's all he
Yeah,
did. All right.
absolutely.
So C plot, you got the parents, Sandy, Kristen, and Caleb. So you got their whole work drama and stuff like that with Caleb and Kristen. So it really just establishes that dynamic. And Caleb is looking for different love in different places, including with Julie right after her divorce. They break up preemptively, but then they get back together eventually and get married to end the season. Meanwhile, Kristen is dealing with all the stress of that. Sandy is dealing with some law stuff, and he's also being flirted with by one of his coworkers who convinces him to leave his pro bono work and go to a nice fancy law firm by the end of the season. So that's basically simple with the C plot. Then we got the D plot over here with the Coopers. Jimmy's dealing with starting a whole new business now that he is a broke dude. He a broke dude right now. He's all
Yeah.
done. He's all dead and dusted. So him and Sandy basically they bond together and they decide to open up the Lighthouse, a new restaurant in Newport. But Caleb eventually messes all that up, buys it from underneath them, buys it for cheap, sells it for even more. And this leads to him, and he's also trying to use that to leverage Marissa to move in with him and Julie after they get married, because she has moved in with Jimmy after Jimmy and Julie separate and get divorced, and he has a new apartment. So she's basically living with Jimmy the entire season until Caleb
Yeah,
swoops in.
they made the whole deal with, Summer and Seth, making, her new room into an actual room to live in. I really like that episode because
Yeah.
like this is also one of the episodes where you discover even more about Summer, because like she's, the goody two shoes, a rich daughter and everything, and all of a sudden she knows how to use power tools. So like that's really hot.
I love it.
Even more. So that's really, really great. And they
Love
made
it.
a lovely room, by the way. They
They
made
did.
the room into like they painted the walls. Seth was there to paint the walls because like he's an artist and everything. Like he enjoyed, comics, reading them and inventing them. So yeah.
Yes. Meanwhile, you have Julie over here, and Julie has
Yeah.
a dramatic season. After the divorce, she starts dating Caleb, but she's not getting enough attention, and he's not romantic enough. So she finds a new suitor in the form of Luke, who is starting to
Of
hang out
course.
more around the house, and she winds up sleeping with Luke and sleeping around with them. Ryan
A
and Seth
lot.
a
A
lot.
lot.
Ryan and Seth are the first to find out after Ryan leaves his watch at the hotel after sleeping with Teresa. And Kind of funny how that turns out. And then eventually Marissa finds out when Ryan talks Luke into breaking up the whole relationship because he comes in and blabs it out, and Marissa overhears. So she runs off to Chino. That's how we get to that whole Chino part, and that's what brings Ryan and Marissa back together, basically. And Luke is basically still in love with her, but she winds up back with Caleb. Luke is basically going through it at this point, gets run over by a damn car, I think, at some point. He's in the hospital and basically is convinced to go with his dad to Portland to end his whole arc. Meanwhile, Julie is with Caleb, and they get married to end the season, and Marissa is convinced to move out of her father's apartment and move in with the Coopers. And that is all just season 1. And trust me, folks, I am not going to go into that much detail with the rest of these seasons because this is
season 1
the
is
S
really
tier.
important one.
Yeah, this is the S tier.
By the way, the scene where Luke talks to Ryan and Marissa walks into the room, you have to admit that this is one of the most weakest scenes of the entire season. Absolutely the weakest, because I'm no longer sleeping with Julie Cooper. Like, why would you say something like that?
Like, why would you blab that out? Like,
why would you blab that out? Yeah, I'm no longer sleeping with Julie Cooper. And I'm like, even if she didn't walk in, she would have heard it. She would have heard
it because she lives next door. What are we like yelling that out for?
Yeah, because like it's supposed to be a secret, and even if you know that you're the only ones in the whole apartment, you never shout something like that out. And that's what I'm saying. For me, this is one of the weirdest scenes ever in the entire first season, or probably maybe in the whole series. And that's why I hate this scene. It's so not real. Like, I know it's TV series, I know it's make believe land, but it's so you're like, oh man, that's not real. Like, like people like that don't react to each other like that. So as dramatic as the scene is, it's really awful. Like in terms of act,
it's really also awful. So
yeah, it is supposed to be awful. It's supposed to be awful, but like the acting is not what you want it to be. Like, that's how I'm gonna put it. Yeah, so the Ken doll screwed up here big time, and that's why. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of sympathy for Luke, even though you knew that, if you're a man, you're like, you go, my man. Because like he's 16 years old, and Julie Cooper is really hot, by the way. She's really, really nice, because they all go to yoga and spin class or whatever, the hens of OC. They all go to the hens of OC. Yeah. So it's the best season for me, because like everything happening and you're like, oh my god, this could not, like, it's so awful and you can't look away, because like all these stuff keep happening, and it's such a soap opera. It's soap opera for teenagers. Okay, it's so good. Even people in their 40s can enjoy the show, because like that it's so long ago because of the flip phones. And they're also made to, the flip phones are
the fashion thing. And the flip phones are what gives it away what year this is from.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like when you watch shows from the past, when they were shot because of the phones and technology. But like the phones give it away. Like the favorite season ever.
Absolutely. This is number 1, 100%. So that brings us to the second season, and I'll just break it down by the same format: A plot, B plot, C plot, D plot, with the same people, Ryan and Marissa. A plot. So they basically, Ryan and Marissa, they get back together after the first episode. The first episode sees Ryan, he's a construction worker living with Teresa, but they're not romantic in any way. He's just there for the child. But then he's talked by Sandy into convincing Seth to come back from Portland and come back to the OC. So he goes to see him, but Seth is very adamant, like, if you ain't going back, I ain't going back. I'll stay here. He's got a new life. He's living with Luke and his dad. He tried to go to Tahiti, but he wound up taking a bus to Portland, and Summer won't talk to him, so he's better off just staying here. But Ryan gets a phone call as Teresa feels like Ryan is not in it 100%, and she tells him that she lost the baby, and Ryan has no reason to come back to Chino. So Ryan is basically talked into going back to the OC with Seth. So our whole family's back together. Ryan attempts to get back with Marissa. Things seem okay, but Marissa, this whole time that Ryan's been gone, has been having a sultry love affair with her Mexican lawnmower. I don't even remember his name.
It was so not important. The only thing that
so
was
not
important, and so not important. The important thing was that, rage thing that she did when she, put all the patio furniture in the pool and started shouting at her mother. Well, her mother was trying to do, like, this is the season where you gain so much sympathy for Julie. Like, because everything that she's doing is she's doing for her children, and you realize that in the second season. Because in the first season you were like, well, she's a gold digger, she's she's doing everything to satisfy her own needs and everything or whatever. And then in the second season you realize that the only reason why she's a gold digger is because she wants to provide for her two daughters, like, a lot, because, like, she doesn't want them to live the way that she lived her life when she was young and everything. So you just fall in love with Julie, and you start building sympathy for her, because, like, you just want to hug her, and like, it's not your fault, sweetie, your daughter is a bitch, so, like, it's not you. She has daddy issues a lot. Like, she
has a lot of issues, folks. But so they break up after Ryan catches her with the lawnmower dude, and Ryan winds up starting a relationship. First, it's like an adversary relationship with Lindsay, who comes in because Ryan has been put into, like, the smart kids, the advanced classes at Harbor High School. So him and Lindsay clash because she thinks that he's just a regular lacrosse guy, but then she winds up finding about his background, so they start dating each other. He even invites her over for Christmaka. But the only issue with all of this is the fact that Lindsay just happens to be the love child of Caleb Nickel. Yes, the father of Kristen Cohen, who is the stepmom of Ryan Atwood. So that is found out on the Christmaka episode. We find that out. That makes their relationship definitely tougher, as Lindsay is trying to get to know her new family, at the same time continue her relationship with Ryan. It all eventually falls apart as Lindsay mom wants to move away from the OC when it becomes known that she had a love child and had an affair with a married man, and she wants to run off, and Lindsay decides she's going to go with her mom after realizing that this family is an absolute mess, something that Ryan should have just stayed away and stayed in Chino at the start of this season and realized. But this leads Ryan to being heartbroken and trying to be brought back to happiness by his friends, where we start to see the spark time relit between him and Marissa, and they get close to each other. But all the while, Marissa has gone through the whole lawnmower guy relationship, and she's eventually gotten close with a female that Seth knows very well. We'll get to that in a bit. And she gets into a relationship with Olivia Wilde. I don't remember what's her name.
Yes.
What was her name in the show? It's Olivia Wilde. That's how I see it.
She's Olivia Wilde. Like, she was the one to make all girls, make that, violet thing on their on their head. Like, she was the one.
And this was a huge thing in 2003, 2004 when this came out, when the season debuted, because it was two attractive females making out on national TV. So this whole relationship, though, only lasted 2 episodes because Ryan and Marissa had to get back together. So they get back together just in time for Ryan's brother, to come into town. And Trey is an absolute mess. He's stealing things.
aka poor man's Tom Hardy.
Polar Man's Tom Hardy. Everything's going all right. They're trying to integrate him into the OC. Marissa's trying to be so nice to him because he's Ryan's brother. And when Ryan goes out of town one day, he basically tries to SA Marissa. Yes, that actually happened.
Absolutely, because like, yeah, she was like, what are you doing this? And he was like, well, you're being nice to me. And she was like, yeah, because like you're Ryan's
Ryan's
brother.
brother.
You're Ryan's brother. Like, of course I'm gonna be nice to you. You're basically family, and that like that, of course, does not stop him.
Does not register
Uh,
with him because he's been in jail for a year and a half, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, like let's
Might
not
be.
make excuses for the asshole.
No, I'm not making
Like,
excuses for him, but that
yeah,
might be the reason. That might be a reason. Maybe you shouldn't be
yeah,
nice to the guy that's been in jail for a year and a half. I'm just saying. Even though he's
yeah.
Ryan's brother. I'm just saying.
Hmm.
But yes, this all happens. This becomes like a secret for a couple of episodes until Ryan finds out in the finale from Seth, who found out from Summer, who found out from Marissa. And this leads to a whole big fight where it looks like Trey's about to kill Ryan, but Marissa comes in and shoots him. What you
What you
say?
said, that you only meant well. Of
Probably
course you did.
the
What you
most
said.
replayed moment in OC history.
Absolutely. Saturday Night Live had a scene with that
What
last episode.
you
What you
say? What you say? All right, so going to our B plot with Summer and Seth. Seth comes back and he wants to get right back with Summer, but Summer has a new boyfriend who is part Luke, part Seth. He's a comic book loving lacrosse player who joins Seth's comic book club. So he has a friendship slash adversary relationship with them, and they become kind of like the centerpiece love triangle of this season. Eventually, Summer chooses Seth over Zach. We get the dramatic episode where she kisses him upside down as he's wearing a Spider-Man mask in the rain. So they're back together, but Zach is still in play because him and Seth develop a comic book together
together, yeah.
where Summer becomes kind of like the lead role of it and the centerpiece of it, and that becomes
What was she
kind of
called? What was she called?
Cosmic Girl, I think.
Was it Cosmic Girl? She's
Cosmo
the
Girl.
Cosmic Girl.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on this. I'm trying to go through these seasons a lot faster in less detail. That
Yeah,
season
I
one.
know, I know.
So yeah, that whole thing, but they seem good and they're together by the end of the season despite that little hurdle with the comic book. So going to our B plot, there's a lot more drama with Sandy and Kristen in
Oh
this
yeah.
season. As you know, we had the whole co-worker in season 1, and we had Jimmy, that were kind of only distractions from our happy wedded couple, but we get more distractions as a ghost from Sandy's
Serious
past. Yeah.
distractions.
Ghost from Sandy's past, his ex-girlfriend that he was gonna get married to right before he met Kristen, basically comes back into his life, but she's a fugitive on the run, so he has to help her legally. Her father is like his mentor as well, and he passes away, so he has to be there for her and comfort her as she's grieving as well. Eventually, he basically has to choose his family over her. They do kiss. I don't know if he ever told his wife that, though. I'm not sure. I draw a blank on
I'm
that.
sure that he did, but like while this was happening, he because like he quit his corporate job and he
Yes.
got back to his old
Pro
job. So
bono.
yeah, pro bono. So he moved back into a small office building that was like a it's
On the
it,
beach.
yeah, on the beach. It was like a cottage. Like it's
Yeah.
uh yeah, so that's basically where she was the entire time because like she couldn't, hotels and everything, like she couldn't. So like she spent a lot of time there. And the thing worth noting here is we realized while this is happening that actually our very own Kiki, the wonderful, mother, wife, and everything, she kind of has an alcohol problem.
Yes.
And
She develops
yeah,
an alcohol problem. At the same time, she's also having a very flirtatious relationship with this guy that's brought in to start running a magazine for the Newport Group. We
absolutely. Yes.
we also get Julie, who has started working at the Newport Group now that she's married to Caleb. So
Yeah,
she's
she was in charge of, furniture and everything. Like,
yeah. So she
yeah, she
starts
actually did a
drinking.
good job. She did a good job.
So she starts drinking with the guy like late night and stuff, and then she starts drinking more alone when he goes away, when he leaves, and they have like this unrequited sexual tension that is left unsettled. Then she has issues with her father, who eventually passes away in this season after him and
Such a
Julie.
dramatic death, by the
Yes,
way.
he has a heart
It was,
attack
yeah.
when it looks like Julie's about to poison him and kill him anyway. So thank God he had a heart attack. But yeah,
Yeah, but she removed the point, like
yeah,
she
yeah,
did.
she
Yeah,
did. She did. She
she
did
did.
remove it. She did remove it. To be fair, but I'm not
Yeah,
gonna be
because
fair.
he was about to tell everyone that she was like, yeah, that's why he was.
We gotta get to our D plot to get into what happened with
Yeah,
Julie this
yeah,
season.
okay.
And then she starts drinking more when Caleb passes away. So they have an intervention for her, which is one of the more dramatic scenes of the whole
Yeah.
entire season
Mhm.
or series. When you get Seth coming in and telling her like he wants her to go to rehab, so she eventually decides
That's
to
when
go to
she broke.
rehab.
That's when
Yeah,
she broke because like she wasn't, and she was, denying everything, and
she even came
I
at Ryan kind of salty. She was like, "Don't you dare say anything! I let you in my
yeah,
home."
I let you in my home, yeah, and like she was always, the lioness in that
But
entire
I
family.
loved how Ryan came back at her. He was like, "Yeah, you let me in my home because my mom had a drinking problem." Like,
Yes, absolutely. And then she was about to leave the room, and then you saw, because Seth didn't want to do this because he loves his mother, and he was like, it's like we're gaining up on her, and
mhm.
he refused to do that. But like then he was there on the door, right next to the door, and he was like, "Mom, you have a problem. You need to do this." And that's when she started crying, and it was a really dramatic scene. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I totally forgot when we talked about the B plot with Seth and Summer that Seth did go out with Olivia Wilde for a little bit, but that was just so minor and not made as much of a big deal as Marissa
As
and
was
Olivia Wilde
Marissa and
in
Olivia
for two
Wilde.
episodes. For like half the amount of episodes that Seth was with Olivia Wilde, no one. Sometimes you will forget that that happened because you always focus on Marissa and Olivia Wilde.
Yeah.
But so yeah, she has that drinking problem. She goes to rehab. Sandy is kind of left to manage the house. Caleb is gone, and
It
that
was a
brings us
mess.
to the D block of this whole situation. So you have Jimmy, he goes off, I guess, like sailing or something like that, or he wants to go. I think in like the beginning of season 2, he wants to go off sailing with Kristen's sister. Barely even mentioned her, but she came into play in like season 1.
She was a stripper. Come
Yeah, she
on.
was a stripper. She was a
She was
stripper who
just
they saved. They saved from the
yeah.
strip club. But yeah, they had started a relationship in season 1, so that went into season 2. But she gets a nice new job. She goes off, and Jimmy is kind of left to his own devices, and he has to eventually go off himself. But he eventually comes back towards the end of the season as Julie's whole marriage was falling apart as she a ghost from her past came back into play and wants to show this sex tape that they made when she was younger and trying to make money. We also we also in the first season, to bring that up, we also find out that she grew up in Riverdale or Riverside, excuse me, Riverside. So that's like
She's
a more
basically white trash. That's what we're
white trash,
saying.
white trash basically. So yeah,
She's
we
basically white trash.
so when
That's
we find
why
out that
she
she made a
hates
sex
Ryan.
tape,
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
makes a lot of sense. So eventually she asks Caleb for help, right? Like
Yeah.
because like yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, okay, I will."
Instead of paying off the dude, he beats him up.
Yeah. And then because he beat him up and not pee him, That's when he showed the tape to everyone.
Yeah.
There was a huge party because I feel like every season there was a fancy party about something.
Multiple fancy
Multiple
person,
parties, yeah. So there
multiple
was a
fancy,
fancy
and
party. I
usually Ryan
forget,
gets in a fight at them.
of course, at least one of them. Yeah. So like, I don't even know what that party was for. Was it? No, like, I don't care.
I
It
think it
was
was for the launch of the magazine.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So like they showed parts of the tape because like the dude didn't receive his money, like he beat them, and yeah, uh, yeah, and because like they were about to, did she want to poison him because
Yeah.
they were getting
Because
because they were
cause
getting separate, and
I think
he
because he was gonna ask for, he was gonna get a divorce from her.
yeah, get a divorce from her and sign a prenup or whatever and not get any money out of out of
Yeah.
everything, and by dying, like a lot of things will go to her as her
Yeah.
wife, and that's why she decided to poison him. And then she realizes what she was about to do and everything, and like they have a normal conversation by the pool, and she was like, let me fix you another drink, and then she goes, by the way, she's looking smoking hot, because like in this entire scene, like she was wearing bikini, and I was like, you you've given birth. You've given birth and you look like this. How is this fair? So like she wants to fix Caleb a drink, a margarita, if I'm like
Think so.
remembering
Yeah.
correctly, and like she goes back to to carry the drink. We didn't see if she put in, like, you can see the confliction in her. We couldn't see if she put in the poison or not. And when she comes back to the pool and she sees that Caleb is actually, he already had a heart attack and splashed into the pool, and he couldn't save his own life because he was having a heart attack. So she tries to save him, but it was too late. The guy was, and that's
Yep, that's how we basically end the season, because that final episode starts with the funeral and then ends with Trey getting shot. So that
yeah.
wraps up season.
What you
So
say?
I would say season 1 is like a 10 out of 10. What do you give season 2? I give season 2 a 7 out of 10 myself.
I give it an 8.5.
Wow.
Like, yeah, a lot of stuff happened, and like we mentioned after, before we started recording, um it's it paved the way to a much darker third season, and it was really, really important. Also, that end scene, I'm sorry, but that's it's engraved in my brain every time I hear it. It's like
What you say? And that brought us to season 3. Season 3 of the OC. So coming off the heels of Trey getting shot, you had Ryan and Marissa in the A plot. So they, going through all of that, going through the trauma of what they had to deal with, and Marissa being questioned by the police, but is eventually self-defense, but it causing the issue at the high school as Marissa is kicked out of the high school. They threaten to get Ryan out as well, especially this new dean that puts his hands on Marissa when she shows up at the kickoff carnival where they had their first kiss. I forgot to mention on season 1 review. But yes, they're back at the kickoff carnival, and the dean wants to kick Marissa out, puts his hands on Marissa, so this causes Ryan to punch him in the face. He's about to get kicked out until everybody like rallies and gets him into the school. So Marissa is left out of the school and goes to the new public school, Newport High or something like that, or whatever.
What's really funny is that they made the Newport High School, like, which is a regular high school, they made it look like a prison, like an
It
absolute
was
prison. And
always
I'm like,
darker. It was always so
it,
darker when it was
yeah,
not
it
that.
was grim, and like everyone like no one wore color. Everyone wore black and gray.
I think that this season is by far the worst. I'll just get that out the way because I don't know if I'll go into as much detail as I did with the first two seasons because it has some of the worst new characters they could have ever
Yeah.
introduced. So just at Newport High, the new high school that Marissa goes to, we meet Johnny, who's like a
The
depressive
biggest
slash
bitch of the world.
he's like
Oh look, my foot is hurt.
depressive but yet laid back. He's like, oh my god, it's like an emo kid met Matt Riddle and just had a baby. Like it was just ridiculous. Yeah, he's annoying. Then we got dollar value Seth Cohen with Chili, his best friend. We
I
have
hated chili. I
his
hate chili.
girlfriend, Johnny's girlfriend, who was there for a cup of coffee because she eventually cheats with Johnny's arch nemesis, surfing arch nemesis, Volchek, in like the first episode that we meet her. Volchek becomes a recurring character for what reason? I don't know. Because him and Ryan have beef because Ryan gets involved in the whole issue between Johnny and him and punks out Volchek. So then you get Ryan and Marissa. It's a love triangle because Johnny is the new Oliver and Marissa doesn't know how to keep anyone out of their damn relationship for more than 5 minutes. Jesus
She
Christ.
like I mentioned, she is in the center of everything that was wrong. Everything, like, oh, like a lot of things happened a year ago with that dude who, was really problematic and stuff. I'm sure that nothing like this will happen here, right?
Can't happen
Right?
again, right?
You bitch. You bitch. Jesus,
So
I'm
that
so no.
So Johnny is like a recurring issue with Marissa and Ryan, and then Caitlin comes back, Marissa's sister, and she wants to cause trouble because she's basically Marissa meets Julie, and she
Oh, yeah.
comes in and wants to get with Johnny. So now it's a rectangle of affair, a love rectangle. And eventually, Johnny starts drinking. He gets a letter from Marissa who says, I don't want to be with you. I want to be with Ryan. And he decides he's going to drink on top of a cliff and he slips off the cliff and
That's
dies.
always a good idea. That is always a good idea. Like back in the day when I used to drink like a crazy person, like my favorite thing was to get a bottle of tequila and then climb on top of a huge, hill and be right on the edge of the cliff when like a lot of rocks are falling, and I know that it's definitely not safe to be around, and I'm gonna shout at the person who I'm in love with who's standing right below. Like, do you guys, like, while I'm explaining this to you, does it seem like a really not smart thing to do? Because that's what happened. Like, that's what absolutely what happened, and it's really really weird.
Really, really weird.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they
that
had the whole funeral and stuff, like with the the releasing of the surf into the
and
sea.
they introduce another awful character, Johnny's cousin Sadie, who's here for like a few episodes and has the personality of a wet rag. And Ryan gets into a relationship with her because him and
Because
Marissa
of
can't
course,
be together after the guy died. Apparently, there's too much trauma that they've been with, and bad stuff always happens when they're together, which is true.
which is
But
true.
it is true. It is true.
I'll give him that.
Might be onto something there. But yeah, so he gets with Sadie for a while, but then Sadie realizes that she shouldn't be with the guy that was with her cousin's love or whatever. I don't know. It's all very confusing. Marissa gets with Volchek. We found out Volchek also was with Sadie, so they just make that very convoluted as well. Volchek causes Marissa to start taking drugs and stuff. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Because Marissa just starts, acting out because like she realizes that no one gives her attention anymore.
Yep.
Because like uh, if you realize like a lot of because it was so grim, everything that was happening with Ryan and Marissa was so grim that the majority of the people watching the show immediately turned to Seth and Summer and everything, because that was the sunny part of of the show. And we were way more interested in that because not generally speaking, every time people are way more attracted to the awful things, to the murderings and the killings and drugs and everything, because it's more of a storyline. In this case, it made zero sense. Everything that was happening with the cousin and Ryan and everything, like we were like, what if another person that comes between Marissa and Ryan? Like, we understand by this point that these two were never meant to be together, like, ever, because like everything that's happening, it's just absolutely not worth it at all. And
But
Volchek
they
and
had strung
everything,
us along so long that we actually wanted them to be together.
yeah, like, exactly, because like because might as well the writers of the show understand that the chase between Marissa and Ryan was that's where the money was. And
Yeah.
when they were together, it wasn't fun anymore, apparently. Like, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
And like, uh, yeah, it's like in wrestling, the baby face chasing the title and everything. And after, they get the title and everything turns into.
Basically, what Maggie's trying to say is that Ryan and Marissa is basically Seth Rollins. It's a lot better when he's chasing the title than when he has the title.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Daniel Bryan also in WWE. Like, who also,
I
because
like
like,
the plan as champion though. That was
yeah,
great.
no, I was talking about the previous,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah, at
previous
the
one,
baby
because like,
face. Yeah.
yeah, as a babyface, because like he defended the championship with Kane, and what else do you remember from that? Because that's what the only thing I remember. Oh my God, that was an OC thing. Okay, so,
Lovely stuff. So I think
yeah,
that's all.
lovely,
That's all with
lovely
the.
stuff.
Oh no, the A plot. We finish up with the A plot because Sadie leaves. Then it's just Volchek, Marissa, and Ryan love triangle. Volchek gets with a girl at the prom, and Marissa finds out. So when they graduate, Marissa's gonna go with her father on a sailing trip, and Ryan's gonna drive her to the airport. So he's driving her, and Volchek, who's drunk, and with this other girl who was involved in this somehow, some way. Don't remember her name. Don't really care to remember. And he basically runs them off the road and kills Marissa. Yeah, that's how it ends. That's how.
Hallelujah,
Hallelujah,
hallelujah. It
hallelujah.
ends up with a magnificent shot of Ryan carrying the dead body of Marissa, like
Hallelujah.
exactly like the scene where he was carrying her when she was drugged in
Yes,
TJ.
yes.
Yeah, that's basically the one good thing in season 3, because of the throwback, of that same thing.
No, there
Uh,
was good thing in season
I adore,
three,
no,
and
no, I adore season 3 for a lot of things, but in the main picture, it was a really bad season.
yes, yes,
Uh,
because all of that I described with Ryan and Marissa was very depressing. It was
it was
very depressing
extremely
and
depressing.
dark the entire season. There was no let up of that. Where you had to get the lighter sides from the B plot, which was once again Ryan, Seth, and Summer in a love triangle. But they found the perfect person and the only good character to come in season 3, Taylor Townsend. She comes into play, and she basically comes in as she's been Marissa's main rival for all the stuff
We just find
at
out about.
yeah, we just found out about all this at Harbor High School. So now she's rivals with Summer because Summer's trying to take over for a lot of what Marissa was doing, and they have a little rivalry. And then she develops a crush on Seth when they have a mutual love of comic books and anime. But she realizes that Seth is a friend, and they develop a friendship. She develops a friendship with Summer. She helps get Marissa back into Harbor High School. Taylor is she's just great. She's just great. She came in so annoying, and they gave her a redemption arc within a whole season where I was very much looking forward to her in season 4, and she was one of the bright spots of season 4 as well. So yeah, that's basically the B plot. Like there wasn't
Yeah,
a
there.
lot of exciting stuff with with Seth
There
and Summer in
wasn't.
this
There
season.
wasn't. They had a huge bonfire party at the beach where everyone was wearing their hoodies for the different
Oh yeah,
colleges
I forgot
and
Seth smoked
universities.
pot in this
Yeah,
season.
and Seth's plot was that he did not get into Brown. That's yeah, that was really awful for him because that was his whole thing, that he was the smart one in the relationship between him and Summer. Summer did get into Brown. She did, but he didn't, and that was the whole thing. Because
He
so
wanted to keep
stupid
it a
because like
secret from
yeah,
her and his parents.
yeah, and everyone and everything, because like it's kind of this for him, this messed up the entire uh relationship between him and Summer, the dynamic in the relationship, because he knew that like she was uh the people person, she was intelligence or whatever. He was the bookworm, like he was the
Yeah,
one to actually and this you know ruined the whole dynamic between everything. And of course the fourth season, then we'll get into the university part, and what's his face from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt, thank you, I'm sorry.
It's like, what's his name from the OC
what
comes
you
into
what's his
play. Like,
face.
what are we doing here? But yeah, that's pretty much yeah. The Brown and Taylor were the big plot points for Seth and Summer in this season. As far as the parents, we see a whole new Sandy as he's taking over the Newport group for Kristen as she's in rehab with some weird storyline with Jerry Ryan, which I don't even want to talk about. I'm good. I don't
Yeah,
want to talk about
it
it.
was really, yeah.
But yeah, Sandy is basically slowly becoming Caleb. He has a new protege who is basically showing him like the sly business things, and he's like doing sly business moves to get this hospital open. So he's doing bad things for good reasons, and he slowly but surely comes to realize that he is changing. So he eventually finds himself out of this whole situation, thankfully, but not thankfully, but not without a lot of stress and drama throughout all of this. He has to deal with Seth with the whole weed issue. He has to deal with
Yeah,
bringing Kristen back home and making the home right for her. Ryan is dealing with all his drama and people dying around him, so he has to deal with that as well. Sandy has a lot on his plate this season. Meanwhile, Julie is broke because Caleb left her no money. She was about to get back with Jimmy, but Jimmy has not learned his lesson. This whole season is just like it's the same shit, and it's just like, why are these characters not grown? You got Jimmy still is embezzling money and stealing money from people, so he has to go away before he gets himself killed. And Marissa has to tell that to Julie, which does bring them closer. They do
yeah.
move out into a trailer park when Caitlin comes back into play. She gets with Summer's dad in this season, and then they move in with him for a little bit here. So yeah, it's a whole mess this whole season. I give it
In
5 out of 10 because of Taylor and Julie. Taylor and Julie, the only bright spots of this whole season.
I give it a 6. I'll give it a 6. I'm a bit teeny tiny more, generous than you. But I know where you're coming from. Absolutely, definitely. But like for me, season 4 is not as good as you see it as, but like it's because like let's just talk about season 4 and then we'll get it into it.
Season 4, the final season of the OC. So no
Ryan's
Marissa.
all grown up. All
Ryan
grown up.
is all grown up, so our A plot is with Ryan, who is distraught and still grieving from Marissa's death. He's moved out the Cohen house. He's moved into his own broken down place where he's an MMA fighter by night and bartender by day. And he's on the hunt with the help of Julie Cooper for Volchek, the man who is responsible for Marissa's death. So he hunts him down in Mexico with Seth by his side, who convinces him not to kill Volchek and to turn him over to the authorities. And he's eventually softened up through a relationship with Taylor, who falls in love with Ryan throughout this season. And slowly
Of
but
course.
surely, after helping Ryan with his insomnia that he's had since Marissa's death, Ryan falls for her. So their relationship becomes like the focal point of the rest of the season, dealing with Taylor, who had run off after high school and married like a French author or something like that. And, and a lot of his stories are a lot of like comedy and stuff. So it's a lighter season for Ryan, which is
It
much
is.
needed
It is.
after the darkness that was season 3.
That Marissa brought into his life.
Brought into his life for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Him and Taylor eventually break up after like this whole big earthquake happens, but they eventually seem like they get back together by the time we get to the end of the season, because the end of the season focuses on the B plot, which is of course Seth and Summer. Seth and Summer are a little bit distant now that Summer is at Brown while Seth is still back at in Newport. She has this new friend who is Chris Pratt. Star-Lord is her new friend, who's an environmentalist. And we see a change in Summer, who is trying not to grieve and focus more on causes throughout her college, and is a big activist around the college, which eventually gets her messed up and suspended and expelled from the college because she listens to Star-Lord too much. Should have learned from Gamora and Rocket that is not
Yeah,
a smart move.
absolutely. Like he throws her under the bus, the bastard.
Those are under the bus. And this is even after he bonds with Seth for a bit, as Seth visits her at Brown. So Summer is back, and Summer doesn't shower apparently and stuff.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
try to bring back Ryan's Chrismukkah spirit with Chrismukkah, and bringing him and Taylor together. But eventually, Summer has to go off on a cause for something, George or something like that. I think it was some weird stuff. She also has a rabbit in this season, and but we end the season with Seth and Summer getting married. I don't know, years later. So we have a nice little bow and nice little ending for those two. And Seth was working at a comic book store as well. It's
Of
very
course.
scatterbrained, my memory of season 4. I'll see. Then we have Kristen and Sandy. I don't know what to tell you what happened with Kristen and Sandy this season, because I know that Kristen and Julie started a company together. They're working together because that's how they met Bullet. And Bullet, and then
Oh
Julie
my
starts
god, I forgot about Bullet.
a male prostitution company with Bullet's son
Yeah.
for a little
Mm-hmm.
bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Because
Julie and
Julie Cooper
Caitlin.
Nickel is gonna Julie Cooper Nickel.
Julie Cooper Nickel was one of the best parts of the season. Bullet was one of the best
Absolutely.
parts of this season. See, the season had much more characters that I enjoyed, like Seth
It
and
did.
Summer. They
It
you
did.
had you had Star Lord as their like third, because we can never go a season without them being in a love triangle. But he was barely a threat to their relationship. More of a threat to their relationship was Summer's mental capacity after
Yeah.
Marissa passed away. They had one of the best Chrismukkah episodes where we see what life would have looked like in Newport if Ryan would have
Yeah.
never moved
If
there.
Ryan never was there, yeah.
So I give this whole season in total, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's right up there with season 2.
Really?
Yes.
Jesus. Hmm. You're
It's
gonna
just
make me.
lighter. It's just lighter. I laughed
It
a
is.
bunch of time.
It is lighter, but like I was so incredibly bummed out because of everything that happened in the third season. And by that I do not mean Marissa's death, by the way. I don't mean that. Because everything that happened in the third season, just the fourth season didn't have a purpose for me.
Yeah, no,
Like
no, no. I agree with you. At the time that it happened, that's how I felt. I think this is after I rewatched the series. After rewatching
mhm.
the series, I realized that season 4 was a lot better than I originally thought it was. I was just
Yeah,
so affected by
absolutely.
how bad season 3 was that it
Yes,
affected my viewing of season 4.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. By itself, season 4 is an amazing season. Like a lot of things were made sense. Continuing of story lines made sense. But after season 3, this season was absolutely gutted out of purpose. And if we look at this season just by the season, it's an easy 7 out of 10. You're absolutely right. But in the entire picture, I'm giving it a 6, just like I gave a 6 to season 3. Because if we have to connect them with each other, they're basically, the two of them are 6. But if we have to look at them separately, they're not. Like they're each like their own life form. If you look at it for firstly, yeah, you're gonna hate season 4. I agree with you. I rewatched OC a lot, and I was like, well, season 4 is way better than I used to think it was. It really was. But I still feel like they should have ended it there.
I mean, there is an
It's like
argument.
season
There's an argument. There's honestly an argument because of how perfect the season was. You could have
it's
ended it after season 1.
absolutely you could have ended it
They
in
had a
season 1.
full arc. Ryan leaves Newport. That's the end of the story. Like Ryan and Teresa, they live in Chino. They have a baby.
Yeah,
They live happy
they have
ever
a
after.
baby with each other. Bye. Like it's that everything. But like it was like season 5 of Fringe, because Fringe was one of my favorite TV series ever. And then season 5 happened, and I'm like, fucking no! Like what is happening? Like no, like stop it.
For me,
So
I compare it to season 7 of Entourage. Entourage, I felt like went on too long, but it had a perfect ending at the end of season 6. And then they came back for season 7, and the main character had to get a drug problem and ended the season trying to punch Eminem in the face. So, like, yeah, it went totally off the rails. Off the rails
what?
after it had the perfect ending season 6. You had to have it become serious and dark and have a drug problem for the main character when it's a comedy. It's a comedy,
Yeah,
folks.
that's not what we bought a ticket for. Yes.
They start to try to do different stuff. But all right, so how I rank it, I would go number 1, season 1, number 2, season 2, number 3, season 4, and number 4, season 3. Season 3 is the worst. It's the worst. It's the worst.
Well, basically, for me, my order can be exactly the order you told if we choose to, change the places of season 3 and season 4, because basically I gave him the absolutely same ranking. Uh, it's one of the, like, season 1 will always be one of the best things in OC. Like everything, like from every season, you can pick something incredibly awesome. I can
Yeah.
agree with that. Every season has its golden egg.
What's your favorite episode from season 1? Mine is the Chrismica episode.
Oh, the Christmas episode is incredibly satisfying. Absolutely.
Season 2, it's not the Chrismica episode. I think it is the Chrismica episode because that's when Lindsay finds out that she's Caleb's daughter. So that it's still the Chrismica episode that season. Season
I feel
3,
like the last episode of season 2 was my, yeah.
that is
It
true.
was, yeah. I feel like
Because of
because
how
it was,
the episode is done, because you start the beginning of the song during the funeral, and then the song does not cut back in until Marissa shoots Trey. That's
yeah.
just perfect. Perfect
Hmm.
how they did that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
Season 3.
season 3, I actually have to think about because there's so many dark freaking episodes. Like,
Yeah, they're all kind of mushed together
yeah, they all
for
kind of mush
me.
together for me. The one I remember the most is Ryan punching the dean at the end, the carnival episode.
Yeah, I can remember that. Yeah. Like a
Season
lot of
4
things.
is the
Yeah.
it's the Chrismica episode. Easy. Chrismica.
Oh yeah, the episode where they show what, everything will be like if, yeah, there's absolutely, because see why OC is so incredibly important for the world, because we get introduced to Chrismica. That is
Blessed with Chrismica.
the
But yes, that is our ranking of the OC seasons. All 4 seasons. Let us know in the comments your ranking of all 4 seasons and what your favorite episode from each season of the OC
Marissa's a
was.
bitch.
And yes, and let us know Marissa is the bitch. Maggie, let the people know where they can follow you.
Guys, you can follow me on X, Twitter, or whatever at Maggie_IK, and on Instagram at Maggie.IK. You can also catch me on this channel every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern with Rob Wilkins for Coexisting with Rob and Maggie. Well, we talk about wrestling, wouldn't you know?
No, this is actually a wrestling channel. Secret. It's a
Yeah,
secret.
by the
Uh,
way.
By the way, you can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3, and you can see me on this channel every Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, with FMC, with Jeremy Lambert, talking everything not wrestling, usually NBA basketball, trash reality television, and 90 seconds of 90 days. That's my favorite part. But yes, check out our One Tree Hill seasons ranking with myself in shared Delaware as well. Check out our me and Maggie's OC character ranking right now as well. And let us know once again in the comments down below how you rank the seasons. But for Maggie, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been our OC seasons ranking. We are signing off until next time.
California.
California, here we go.